Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with books and tuxedos. These are the books. The tuxedo cat is around here somewhere and I don't want to go find him to grab him. So this is, see, now that I speak of him, I hear him jingling in the background. Monster! Say hi, Monster. Say hello. And this is going to be my July reading wrap up. So in the month of July, this was like an okay reading month for me. I feel like I could have read more if I really like committed to reading. I did have quite a few, like 3 stars, did have one new favorite, so that was exciting. Overall, this month I read 9 books and it was a total of 2,662 pages with an average rating of 3.44 stars. My top genres this month were horror, thriller, and mystery. So in terms of fiction versus nonfiction, I did read 8 fiction books and then I read 1 nonfiction book. In terms of the overall star rating, I had 1 2-star read, 4 3-star reads, 3 4-star reads, and then 1 5-star read. So I'm just gonna go in order here by least favorite to favorite. In terms of my least favorite book of the year, it was, or not of the year, of the month of July, my least favorite book was Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I unfortunately ended up rating this a 2-star. I'm not sure what I thought about this going in. I was intrigued by Riley Sager writing from a man's point of view. His books have been so hit or miss for me before. Mainly miss, let's be honest. I've read the one with the something with a haunted house and there's like a writer, I forget what the name of that book was, and then I read the one that came out last year. I'm also blanking on the name of it, I unhauled it, but the one that came out in 2023, I actually did like a little bit more. I ended up giving it like a 3-star. There were just like some conflicting things with how the ending of that book happened that I was just like not fully vibing with enough to give it 4 stars. But Middle of the Night, I ended up giving 2-star, and I'll kind of get into my reasons why, but I do want to give you just an overview of the plot. If you're unaware, one July night, a 10-year-old named Ethan and his friend Billy, they set up a tent to sleep in their backyard. The next day, Ethan wakes up alone in the middle of the night, hence the title. Finds out that someone sliced the tent open and took Billy, and then he's never to be seen again. So it's kind of like this mystery, what happened to Billy type of thing, and I'm like, okay, cool. Then we jump to 30 years later. We're following Ethan as he returns to his childhood home and begins to notice strange things happening, which prompts him to investigate what happened the night 30 years ago. So in terms of the plot, it didn't sound like anything like super intriguing to me. Like I kind of felt like I knew what I was getting into, but it could potentially still be a good time. So I guess I'll start with what I liked about the book, given it was a 2-star for me. So one thing I did like initially, especially in the beginning, was like the cul-de-sac, small town, gossipy Karens type of vibe that they had going on. I did like that. I liked the sort of lean towards like paranormal kind of, and like cults sort of. Like if you've read the book, you know I'm not going to spoil what happens at all, but just to give an overall spoiler-free review as far as things I didn't like, there were just too many like, not plot points, but like not even twists, more like red herrings of like, oh, it was this and then it was this and we're following this and we're following that, and then just things that weren't fully like fleshed out, and kind of felt like it was just like randomly mentioned and then we never revisited it. And then the actual twist at the end, I was just like, such a waste of my time. So it did not work for me. But if you are someone that likes, I'm trying to think who I could recommend this to, like if you do like more like commercial thrillers, I feel like this could definitely work for you. If you don't read a lot of thrillers, you could have a good time with this as well. it was a pretty fast read. Like, I feel like if I spent more time getting through it, I would have been even more, like, annoyed with it. Will I continue to pick up Riley Sager books? I don't know, but I am glad that I checked this out from the library, although I will say I am also mad at this book because I forgot the due date for it, and I was actually 3 days late, and I had to pay 30 cents to my library, and I was mad because it was a 2-star, and like, if I'm gonna have to pay my fees, like, at least have it be like a 5-star book, you know? And that was like my first fine ever at the library, but doing so good, so I am mad about that, but I am glad that I didn't purchase it for my shelves because it probably would have been an unhaul. And then next this month, in terms of the ratings, would be Those Empty Eyes by Charlie Dunlea, I think is how you say his last name. So this one was a 3-star. It wasn't as like, I hated it at all, you know, and it was very intriguing, the start of the book as well. So to give you a brief synopsis about Those Empty Eyes, we follow Alex Armstrong. Her entire family has been killed in their home when she was a teenager, and then she got the nickname of Empty Eyes because the press was accusing her of the murders. Like, her family's found murdered in the home, and then she's sitting there with the shotgun, so they're like, obviously it's this crazy teenager, she killed her whole family. Like, that's the whole start of the book, and this is in the synopsis too, so it's not a spoiler, but that's how the book opens up, and we talk about how she was accused of the murders, and then we follow her during a highly publicized defamation case where she's fighting the defamation lawsuit, and then she's fighting to clear her name, and then we jump to 10 years later, and she's still now searching for answers about the night that her whole family was murdered and who did the killings, and then she's now working as a legal investigator to serve justice for others, as well as try to figure out what's going on with her whole case. Some things that I liked about Those Empty Eyes is I really did like the murder mystery part of it, the investigation part of it. I liked the court documentation part as well. I do kind of wish it almost focused more on that court part of the story versus just jumping to years later. I mean, obviously finishing the book, I see why they did that, but the biggest kind of complaint I have about it was there were so many side plot lines just thrown in there, and I was like, I don't care about these people, and like, the ending like explains things, but it's also just like, was kind of all over the place, and it kind of felt like he was trying to like pull from the headlines of like real life stories that have been going around as far as like Epstein and the islands and him like committing suicide, whatever. So it felt very like I'm reading the news and then I put it into my book sort of thing. And then the biggest thing that kind of bothered me with Those Empty Eyes, which is the reason I gave it a 3-star, was just like the plot lines were kind of all over the place. I didn't really feel like everything was fully fleshed out, and it kind of felt like they were like picking and choosing from like headlines in real life and the news and things like that. There was also like a big content warning as well for childhood sexual assault too that is included in here. Not that there's super graphic depictions from what I remember, but it just felt like he was trying to include it almost just to like grab your attention in a way. If you've read this, let me know if you kind of thought that as well, but it kind of felt like almost used for shock factor sort of in a way, and I just didn't really like vibe with that, and I feel like the book could have also not included that and still had a storyline, you know? Overall, this was kind of still like one of your typical thrillers, I guess. I actually was recommended this by my coworker, which was exciting to kind of do a buddy read with my coworker. She was like, oh, you inspired me to like read again, and I picked up this book, and I was like, oh, I've never actually heard of that that book before. I did hear about this author's newest book, though. I saw it going around, but I haven't read anything by him before. Definitely a writer that has some talent, but I don't know if I'll keep picking up his backlist, but it was still a fun buddy read experience. And then the next books that I read is going to get into additional 3-star reads that I had. So the first one is going to be This Summer Hikaru Died. I did talk about this in my Summerween reading vlog, and I actually need to return this to the library at this point because I think I like renewed the hold on it. Overall, I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was cute. Like, I did like the art style, but I fully didn't really connect with the characters that much. I describe more in my Summerween vlog if you're interested in this, but essentially it's like a friend coming back from the dead, essentially, and there is a boy love element to this as well. I think I am going to keep on with this series because I don't think there's too many volumes and just see how they go, but definitely a good short, like, summer horror type manga if that's something you're looking for. And then next up for my list of 3-star books, a completely different turn from there, would be Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. I read this for... There was a readathon I was doing that I had to read something that started with J, and this was the book that I had that started with J in the title. I haven't read much Shakespeare as far as rereading Shakespeare since like high school, really, so this was a little bit tough, but I think I am gonna still like challenge myself to keep reading classics and especially like Shakespeare plays as well. I don't know, there's not that much to say about Julius Caesar that hasn't already been said. Obviously, political struggles, friendships gone wrong, building trust in people you shouldn't trust. You know, there's all sorts of messages to Shakespeare that I think you could get out of this, and I think upon reread and also watching this as a play versus just reading it physically, I think I would have gotten a lot more out of it, because there were definitely parts where I'm like, what? Like, I was a little confused, but a good challenge to try for sure. And then next up for my other 3-star reads was, unfortunately, Normal People by Sally Rooney. I also talked about this in the same vlog that I talk about Shakespeare Julius Caesar in. Unfortunately, this just didn't fully work for me, and I feel really bad because I really want to be like a Sally Rooney stan. But this was my first Sally Rooney. I think I am going to try to read some of her other books because I think there's a lot of potential there for sure. I think the biggest thing that kept this from being a 4 for me was almost just not vibing with the characters. This is definitely a book where like nothing really happens, but everything happens and like that sort of thing. This is still something I would recommend, especially to specific types of readers I think would like it. I think it is worth trying if you haven't read it by now. And I know I said in my vlog too I was going to try to watch the show. I have started it. I think I'm like 3 episodes in. I don't know why I just don't care about this relationship dynamic, because everyone is like eating it up and falling for them, and I don't know, I don't see it. I'm kind of getting the like emotional gist of what the Sally Rooney was trying to convey a little bit more as I'm watching the show, but I'm still fully not loving this couple, which is maybe an unpopular opinion. If you love this, I'm sorry. And then next up would be my first 4-star read for this month, and that was Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. This cover is so shiny, it might keep doing that. So I read this as well in my Summerween vlog. A lot of people, I didn't realize until after I like posted my vlog and like I was reviewing this, really did not like this book, and I do see why. Like, it's very pretentious, but I did think it was on purpose. If you're a big like horror movie fan and like 90s 80s slasher films type of person, I feel like this will work for you. It's almost like if you enjoy reading from unreliable narrators as well, I think this will work. I did read this along with the audiobook, and hearing like the page like flips in the audiobook as I was reading along in the script part of the book was really interesting as well, so I do recommend that. This is the first Paul Tremblay that I've gotten through. Actually, I started I think it was Head Full of Ghosts. I like started and I wasn't vibing with the audiobook and I DNF'd it But I do want to check out his other work, because I think if I like this, I would also like Paul Bear's Club is the other one I want to try. So if you've read like Paul Tremblay's Backlist, let me know what your favorite one of his is. The other two books that I ended up rating 4 stars in July were the Forgotten Island, as well as A Small Place. So The Forgotten Island I talk about in my Summer Ween vlog. This was my first David Sodergren, and I thought this was really, really interesting. Like, I was excited about the characters. The body horror was really good, and this was just a fast-paced, fun time, and I really liked the setting and the tropical setting, the beach thing and all that sort of thing. This is definitely a more extreme type of horror in a lot of ways, so definitely proceed with caution if you're not a big horror fan, but I definitely loved it, and I'm gonna keep reading his backlist for sure. And then the other one, A Small Place, this was a nonfiction book about traveling and our impact we have as tourists on smaller places that have like local communities that are impacted by tourism. And just the way it was written was like so lyrical. Like, I definitely want to get a copy of this, because I actually checked it out from the library, and I was like putting in all my little tabs, and then I had to take them all out to return the book to the library. But it's definitely something that I think I could revisit, and there's a lot to unpack in there. This author is just so intelligent, and it really shows in her writing, so I do want to check out some of her other books as well. I do think this would be a good place to start. It's only like 80 pages, like you could easily read this in a day. If you want to learn more about tourism and how that affects people, and just being more ethical when you're traveling as well, and just being aware of how people are impacted, you know? So yeah, those were my 3 4-star reads for the month of July. And then for July, I did have 1 5-star read, which is definitely going to be a new favorite, and that is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This was so good. Like, I feel like I'm so bad at talking about books I really, really liked, other than just being, yeah, it was amazing, it was so good, and then I have nothing to say about it. I gave a little bit more details in my Summer Ween vlog, but just to give you kind of an overview, I guess the inside cover kind of sums it up a little bit. They're like, it's Crying in H-Mart meets My Sister the Serial Killer, and this feminist psychological horror about making of a serial killer from a Korean American perspective. So it's just also really interesting to see a person of color serial killer perspective, actually, because when you think about it, I feel like a lot of the even like horror movies that are from the perspective of a killer are always like this white man, you know? So that was an interesting perspective in here. I did like all the food mentions as well, and it's basically, I guess, very quick summary would be like this girl's descent into madness, essentially. There was also this character in here that I could not stand. The mom's, like, boyfriend, husband, like, I know it was on purpose, but, like, the stuff he says was just crazy. Like, especially when they're at, like, the Chinese restaurant and stuff, like, it was just wild. Like, there was a lot that I tabbed in here, too. Oh, and then the friend, too, his name was Geoffrey. That kid was so annoying. Like, he just kept showing up for nothing, like following her around, obsessed with her. I could not stand him either. I'm sorry, that wasn't much of like a synopsis, but this is really good. If you like horror and just like unhinged books and good representation, I definitely recommend picking this up. And then also I wanted to include in this video, just some books that I ended up starting in July, but I didn't finish, like not necessarily DNFs, but just did not get the time to finish. I did end up going on vacation the end of the month as well, which I think contributed to my reading and finishing things, obviously, but one of those is a graphic novel, The Nice House on the Lake. I actually started this at the beginning of July. I think I put it down, I forgot I was reading it, honestly, is what the problem is. And now every time I pick it up, I'm like only reading a few pages at a time, and then I put it down, I pick it up again, and I'm confused. And I'm like, honestly, probably like 70% of the way through. And at this point, I think I just need to start over because I'm kind of lost. This is basically like post-apocalyptic story of these people that are essentially stuck in this house on the lake with all these other people that were like invited by the owner to stay at this house. Like, it's a really interesting concept. There's just so many characters in here, and I think that's why I'm so confused, because I'm taking so long to read it. Like, I should just sit down and read the thing cover to cover. But I am liking it when I pick it up. I think there's just a lot of characters, and it's making me a little bit lost. And I will be trying to finish this in August for sure. I'm sorry, I just blanked on what month it was. Another thing that I started in July was Bliss Montage by Ling Ma. So I took this on vacation, and I was gonna try to read this on vacation, like on the plane stuff, which I did start it, and I got like, actually I took the bookmark out because, fun fact, I kind of dropped this in the ocean accidentally. Yeah, I was like 50 pages into this, and what I did read I was liking, but because of the water damage that happened to this, which you can kind of see how it's like, and then this whole side, like it's not great, and it's really like it's been through it, so I might need to try to get this on my Kindle or something, because it's very crunchy, and I think this is gonna annoy me if I keep reading it. But it's very like stream of consciousness type stories. I don't know how I would describe this. Talks about love and loneliness, connection and possession, friendship, motherhood, and the idea of home, is what it says on the back. This is the author of, since on the back, I forget, I'm blanking on the name of the book, but this author has, Severance. I think that's what it has, like a pink cover. I'll put it here so you know what I'm talking about. I haven't read it, but I have heard people talk a lot about that book, and I am really liking her writing style. It's very unique. I usually don't like short stories too much, but at least the first 50 pages of this I am liking, so this is another one I want to try to finish in August. And then the last one, as far as books I have started but did not finish in July that I'm continuing, is The Day the World Stopped Shopping by J.B. Mackinnon. Mackinnon? Yeah, I guess that's how you say that. I am about 100-ish pages into this. As of now, I'm sorry, it's a library book, so it's gonna keep being shiny in the reflection of the camera. I'm trying to, okay. I'm liking this so far. This is another one that I brought on vacation with plans to read and then kind of barely read. But this is about like anti-consumerism, wasting money on materialistic things that we don't need. But it is a really interesting perspective, instead of just being like, hey, we need to save the economy and stop shopping and here's some things you can do. It's more so talking about like the effects of stopping shopping will have on the world. It brings up like things improving with the economy and the like the atmosphere and all that during COVID, so that's really interesting. Just I don't know how to describe like the perspective it has on being more minimalistic is really really interesting. I think there's a lot going on nowadays as far as people talking about like fast fashion and like clothes not being made how they're used to be made and stuff, especially with like Shein and like companies like that as well. I think you can definitely notice it when you go to the stores as well. Like materials feel like they like be falling apart, and you have to constantly like go out and buy new clothes, which is really, really frustrating. So I think this speaks to that a lot as well. But like I said, I'm like 100 pages into this, so I'll talk more about this in my wrap up for August, hopefully. So that's another one that's gonna be an August hopeful. So that wraps up everything that I read in July and a few things that I started and I'm planning to keep reading in August. If you made it this far in the video, let me know in the comments what your favorite read of July was, and I hope to see you in a video really soon. Bye!